Welcome to the Horse Speak Book Club. I'm Laura Wilsey, here taking you on a journey through the Horse Speak Trilogy. The Horse Speak team is dedicated to giving horses a voice and being their well-deserved advocates. We provide evidence-based knowledge of equine body language that's intrinsic, observable, and repeatable. We offer online courses, a weekly video club where we analyze our members' videos, and from herd dynamics to riding. We offer in-person clinics. And if you'd like to learn more, please check out our website at horsespeakacademy.com. Please keep in mind this is a judgment-free zone. Horsemanship is personal to the individual. So everyone here has a varied background, and we ask you to help keep the environment safe so no one feels shame in any way. Okay, here we go. Page 176, conversation, go ahead, canter. The next logical step from trot is canter. If you are having wonderful and fulfilling conversations about all the things you can do at liberty, your horse may offer on his own to canter one day. If not, it is reasonable for you to ask him to try. While he is in a nice forward trot, scoop the whip from the ground toward the hip drive button in one big swoop. You may instantly find yourself skipping into a canter as you match steps into the movement you desire. The old canter movement you used as a child when riding an imaginary pony works well. Adjust your intensity level to your horse's needs. If he acknowledges your request in any way, his ears become concentrated, he slightly speeds up, he lifts the head, quit your cues. You asked for something, you got something, say thank you. Number 2, next time you ask, see if he needs more engagement from your core energy. If he attempts a stride or two, wonderful, but do not let him continue. Ask for a stop and reward his favorite scratching and perhaps rock the baby on his withers. Again, the reason to stop him is that you do not want him to begin to run away from your cues or feel pushed. By allowing him to gradually acquire confidence at the canter, you will gain both trust and respect. The canter should feel like he has accepted your request from a place of interest, curiosity, and joy. Progress is made when you learn to calibrate your own movements with clarity and the right level of intensity. This is why you are telling him you are pleased with his effort. An open forum. Obviously, you may not be able to build up to canter at liberty all in one day. When things start to get confusing for either of you, cease all cues, go to your horse, breathe, scratch, cup his neck, reward him, and call it a day. Every conversation builds on the previous one. So the next day, so you can run through all the movements again several times and arrive back to where you were confused, most likely bringing more clarity to your own movement. Do not have strict agendas or hard and fast goals. Liberty conversations are meant to be a lot of fun so that when you stop enjoying it, it doesn't feel playful. It is time to quit for the day. Liberty conversations are two-sided events. You are not just showing up and expecting him to conform or perform your agenda. You are opening up a forum for sharing and mutual admiration. This type of relationship will foster the horse's desire to bond with you, and when he does, he will look out for you the way a best friend does. You will both have definite likes and dislikes and up and down days, good ones and bad ones, like everyone else. Through the medium of horse speak, however, you will be aware of these shifts and either ask him what's up or just acknowledge that you get it. which in many ways for a horse and a human is enough. Some horses want you to push all their movement buttons from the ground, yielding sideways and backwards and playing target games before they are mentally ready for riding. Some horses do not seem to need as much pre-riding discussion. Certain horses have a huge sense of humor and will try to make you laugh. Other horses don't want to talk that much and are content just sharing space in their bubble. The miracle of horse speak is that now you can actually begin to know what your horse really wants and how you can best nurture a partnership with him. All right, Dunita.
Joe, at liberty. I first learned about the round pen through the works of Monty Roberts in the early 2000s. Roberts had worked out a system based on understanding that certain movements that a person makes in the round pen triggered the horse to respond in a particular way. The end result was something he called join up, in which the horse seemingly chose to come to the person of his own accord. Robert's intention in bringing this to the public was to facilitate people's understanding that horses are in fact listening and waiting for us to give them the right signals so that they understand that they can and should trust us. Since I first studied Robert's methods, round penning has been used by many others who feel they have a bead on the techniques and how to use them best. I have been to many such clinics, observed numerous trainers' tactics, and heard all manner of opinions on the round pen and its use. Some trainers show great finesse, others use round penning like a system of punishment. I actually heard one trainer state that you should not consider your horse joined up until you get 200 inside turns without argument. An inside turn means the horse changes direction by facing you first, as opposed to a defensive change in which he turns his hind end towards you. Other sayings I recall from round penning clinics include, take his breath away from him and only give him a chance to breathe when he is thinking the way you want him to. And if he isn't sweating, you aren't making your point. In more generic terms, there is an idea associated with round penning, and with lunging too, that the horse needs to get his bucks out by running in circles. In my work with horses, I've had my hands on hundreds of them, rescues as well as school, show and therapy horses. In my experience, I have learned that horses do not round pen each other in the way so many people today round pen their training projects. They do occasionally run around together, blowing off steam in the fresh spring air and enjoying a good romp. In addition, I have watched horses school, assist and educate each other in enclosed spaces. For example, when one horse, horse A, discovers that another horse, horse B, is in distress, horse A will establish that he is the teacher, guide and therapist for horse B. Horse A will drive horse B forward a tiny bit, just enough to get horse B to move off softly, without resistance or worry. Secondly, horse A will usually exaggerate his own footfalls, making clear, slow, heavy footsteps, often with a lowered head. He usually scans the horizon and maybe blows a sentry breath. He may perform the nurturing breath and beckon horse B towards him to do the greeting ritual over and over again. Depending on what horse B's problems are, horse A will figure out what horse B needs the most, and then he will work on that. When it comes to the round pen, I need to be horse A with Joe. Joe is in the round pen now. He is staring at me with wary eyes. His owners have tried to join up with him, and I appreciate their efforts to try and help Joe feel better about his world. Unfortunately, he mentally and emotionally shuts down when he is put on a circle, whether lunging him or round penning. To him, the circle is a place where people chase him with a whip, and he has to pass a test he never understands before they finally let him stop and put a saddle on instead. My first approach in this space must relieve him of his belief that I am about to chase him around. To do this, I will stay outside the round pen. By staying on the outside, I remove a whole level of pressure. Joe is already tense. His eyes are wide. His body is taller as he prepares to run. His breath is shallow. His head is high. I begin by establishing the level of X that I will use, plus the level of intensity that goes with it. Horses are the most confused by our lack of clarity in regards to stages of pressure. Of all the things that I spend the most time teaching students is the levels of intensity that cause the number one disconnect between what people intend and the actual message they transmit. To review, level 1 intensity includes looking at the horse. A horse is constantly aware of other horses' eyeball pressure. For example, when the lead mare looks at him, it means she may want his hay pile, and it is best he get off it before she gets closer. Noticing horses' looks saves quite a lot of scuffle. After a clear stare down comes a head snake that looks like the horse is flattening his ears and nosing definitively in the direction of another. This is level 2. Level 1, and I intend to claim your hay pile, while level 2 is a request for movement. I'm coming towards your hay pile, and you have a full minute to start leaving, please. Level 3 means business, and the action, intensity, and movement reflect this. I'm at your hay pile. You are not moving away fast enough, so I'm opening my mouth and preparing to bite you. Level 4 insists in no uncertain terms. I am standing on your hay pile. You are slow as molasses, and now I will take a chunk out of your hide. Then, as we learned in step 7, when I first discussed levels of intensity, when the dust settles, everyone returns to zero as though nothing ever happened. It is difficult for people to phase their intensity in a clear, precise way and then drop all the way back to zero at the drop of a hat. It takes a lot of practice.
Thank you, Danuta. Isis?
Joe sees me look at him and reads that I have an intention, level 1 pressure, because he holds his breath and stares fixedly at me. I acknowledge his right answer by stepping backward and looking down in aw shucks. We engage in this version of approach and retreat 3 more times. Each time he sees me look at him and answers by looking back at me, I take the mental pressure off by doing aw shucks. This process invites him to finally take a huge, deep breath and do an aw shucks himself. I am overjoyed that he can ask me this question. He is asking if it's all right to relax. I answer by scanning the horizon dramatically and then blowing a sentry breath. He does copycat, which means that he would very much like to follow my lead. I step up to the fence line and make a dramatic O, then hold out my knuckles for a greeting. He wastes no time striding over to check in, but he does do one more aw shucks on his way. This is to let me know he means no pressure against me and wants me to feel comfortable with his approach. I am very pleased with his efforts. I tell him what an impressive horse he is, so brave and trying so hard to do the right thing. I tell his owners also that we have achieved a kind of join-up. Of course, Mike and Liz are confused by this, since what Joe and I are doing looks very different from the other kind of round penning with much running and sweating. They are relieved that Joe wants so badly to be a good horse and that our connection has happened so fast and with so little effort. The day is not over, however. Joe has to learn to trust me and listen to me, even when my intensity phases up. If I end our session now, it will not serve him entirely because I need him to feel comfortable with all my levels, just like he would with another horse. The only way I can do this is to work through the levels carefully, faithfully returning to zero each time. It's not the pressure that scares the horse, it's the lack of returning to normal that upsets them. I'm in the moment with Joe, and he can relax because I'm going to prove to him that I can go to zero whatever he does. I go through all the stages of the greeting ritual to reassure him that nothing has changed between us. When we get to the part where I ask him to yield space to me in the front, he turns and walks away. Fantastic. I only asked for a step backward, but him giving me the whole side of the round pen is a nice compliment. Because it is not what I asked for, I can see that Joe overcompensates for what he thinks people want and isn't really listening to what they are actually asking for. Now I know that he guesses and overgives. Either way, he has set me up perfectly for the sending position, so I move along the fence line into his hip drive button space. Aiming my whip up toward the hip drive button of his hip, I keep my intensity between a level 1 and 2. I move toward him around the outside of the round pen, and my movements are deliberate and steady. Each footfall is slow and anchored to the ground. Joe can perceive me coming and is watching. He knows I'm pointing at his hip drive button, and at first he seems to resist my approach. Joe then lays his ears back in defensive annoyance, nods his head, swishes his tail, and moves off too fast. Joe is saying that he feels defensive about being driven forward by me for all people. He is unsure why I'm sending him because he gave me the whole fence line, and why do I need to move him again? He doubts I understand the hip drive button, and the tail swish says he doesn't like this. I cannot gain his acceptance until he knows that I know how to drive. Because he moved off, even though it was too fast, I step backward and do aw shucks. This is the best way to tell him, in his words, that he did a good thing and that I appreciate it. He trots to the other side of the round pen, so now I approach his hip drive button again with the same slow, deliberate steps. This time he leaves sooner and swishes his tail more dramatically. He's telling me he thinks I'm picking on him. He cannot differentiate my driving him from behind from bullying. Again, I do a brief aw shucks. He looks back at me hopefully, and I nod my head, scan the horizon, and do a nurturing breath. I really want him to start understanding that I'm not going to act like a rabid dog, but like a mother horse. This time, when I start to move towards his hip drive button, he kicks out, squeals, and runs off, shaking his head. This means he really feels defensive, picked on, and that life is so unfair right now. I've not gone above a level 2 intensity. Now that Joe is feeling picked on, I must respond with level 4 so he can tell the difference. I've watched countless horses do the same thing. They make their upper stages of pressure clear and obvious so that young or immature horses can understand what qualifies as the low end of the spectrum. I take one definite step away from the fence, and Joe raise the whip in one fluid motion and crack it down swiftly onto the earth. Then I completely stop. Joe scoots forward, then turns and faces me with a questioning look. I step back and sit on the ground, combining aw shuck, sharing space, and zero. I sit like this until I see Joe shift in a small way. I'm undoing all his confusion about pressure, buttons, movement, and whips. Joe needs time to think because I just showed him a big level 4 intensity, followed by a dramatic and certain 0. Before, he consistently overreacted to my levels 1 and 2, so he needed the contrast to understand what I was doing was definitely not level 4. And he needed to see how committed I am to going right back to 0. Now he stares at me, breathing steadily, almost without blinking. I wait, breathe, and pull at a little grass to demonstrate my dedication to inner and outer 0. Joe lowers his head slightly and closes his eyes. Joe's owners are nearby in chairs watching, so I explain everything that has just happened. I say his sleeping is not ignoring me at all. He's absorbing the conversation. Mike and Liz admit that Joe has never slept in the round pen ever. Once in a clinic, I actually had a sensitive, nervous horse lie down and go to sleep while in the round pen with his buddy standing watch.
Thank you, Isis. Violet?
After about 4 minutes, which can seem like forever when you are just sitting there, Joe stirs a little. I stand up and ask him to move one single foot backward by aiming my whip towards his toe and staring intently at it, initiating fun with feet. He pauses for only a moment, then carefully moves that one foot backward. Eureka! I have attained the beginning of healing. I back up, blow out a deep breath, and say, "Good job." I then ask for the other front foot to move backward, and he moves it almost instantly. I stop, breathe, and tell Joe what an amazing horse he is and that I am proud of him. For years, I have noticed that when we begin to reach through the fog and communicate with a horse using horse speak, he then seems to understand the intention we send with our human words infinitely better. At times, it almost seems as though the horse has some rudimentary grasp of our words. Either way, I enjoy using my voice to convey my praise and respect for a horse and model this for my students. I step backward, make a defined O, and invite Joe to come toward me. He pauses for a moment, then, licking and chewing, he nods his head and steps towards me all the way up to the fence. I have just beckoned Joe, and he has come back. We share space for a moment, enjoying our newfound connection. Now I must go inside the round pen and do everything all over again to make sure that this connection will be honored, even though the pressure will be heightened when I step to the other side of the fence. On my entrance, Joe stiffens and lifts his head high. I scan the horizon and blow the boogeyman away, adding a nurturing breath as I soften my whole being. I want him to read my level of intensity, currently 0. If he reacts to my 0 as though it is a level 3 or even 4, things could get out of hand very quickly. Greeting him with a knuckle touch and cupping his neck, I repeat the fun with feet game we did when I was outside the round pen. He reacts to my level 1 intensity, simply looking at his front foot, by moving his hoof back 1 step. He now realizes that I am discreetly sending him without any pressure directly on him. Making an O, I invite him over. He takes 1 step forward, 1 step toward me, and freezes, which is fine. I let him feel stuck for a brief period before I casually glide over to him and do a knuckle touch. As we move to copycat, he takes a shuddering breath, 2 breaths in and 1 long breath out. I use this moment to reach up and groom his withers, adding rock the baby. I sway slightly, holding my whip in the walking stick position and humming under my breath. Joe adjusts his front feet to a wider stance. I can feel the tension oozing out of him and into the ground. After several minutes, I step back, moving my eyes, belly button, and whip tip toward his hip drive button. Joe politely steps away with his hind end, then sails off quietly toward the edge of the round pen. I nod my head and do aw shucks as a yes. Gently, I aim my eyes again at his hip drive button. With a blow of his nose and a shake of his ears, Joe marches off in a quiet, slow walk. I step back and praise him. When he stops, I turn away and scan the horizon. Every time I scan the horizon or blow a sentry breath, I am acting like a concerned leader who will watch out for predators and protect Joe. Now I make dancer's arms and aim my core energy at his girth button, and as he walks off, I turn and casually join him, matching steps with his stride and stepping in alignment with his shoulder. We are going somewhere together. When I stop my feet and drop my pelvis in drop it to stop it, Joe stops on a dime. I want to keep Joe focused on my intention and my levels of intensity so that he is actually listening to what I am saying and not anticipating. So I repeat the pressure on the girth and hip drive buttons, and we move 1 step at a time in matching steps. Joe needs to stay present and keep talking with me in order for me to give him the leg up he needs in his life. We get to a place where he moves away nicely at a walk, changes direction softly, halts when I halt, and even walks off shoulder to shoulder with me and follows my direction. So it is time to ask for a little speed. Asking for speed is tricky with panicky horses. They assume that if you are asking them to run, there must be a reason for it. I step to the center of the round pen and ask Joe to move off at a walk, which he does very politely and with a sideways ear, floppy lip, and low head attitude. Carefully, I lift my knees a little higher and nod my head to signal I want a speed change. I am stepping in time with his front feet in the center of the ring, and I use the whip so slightly, still between a level 1 and level 2 intensity, to indicate a little more energy.
Thank you, Violet. PJ?
Joe lifts his head, tightens his jaw, and pins his ears, accompanied by a tail swish. I'm not surprised he feels pushed or bullied by my request. He is assuming we have arrived at the part where I chase him. I continue to talk to him, telling him that I understand his worry. Keeping my cues securely at level 2, I make sure my inner energy is 0. This sounds like an inner versus outer conflict, but keep in mind that horses truly never like to leave 0 on the inside. Our goal, too, is to be able to stay at 0 on the inside, regardless of our cues and gestures outside. I want Joe to experience the feeling of his own inner 0. I want him to be able to find an inner calm while his body transitions to a faster gait. I have to model this, of course, so I exaggerate my O posture and deepen my inner calm, as I also ask him to politely take a step or two into a trot. He shakes his head in protest while stepping up into a defensive trot. The moment he does this, I drop it to stop it, looking at the dirt and blowing out a sigh of relief. It still takes Joe several steps to notice. I let Joe stand and look at me for a full 2 minutes. He is breathing steadily and flicking his ears. His eyes are blinking, and he looks as though he's sorting out some big thoughts in his head. When he starts to soften just a little, it lets me know we can try again. I ask him to walk off, which he does nicely. Then right away, I ask for 1 step of trot. I use all my body language and even my human words, saying to him, just 1 step of trot, please. Joe walks faster and faster, head up, ears in a concentrated backward hold. His chin is a bit tight, but his eye and closest ear keep flicking on to me. He tells me he is trying to get it. He lifts into a hesitant trot. Immediately, I drop it to stop it and add a human expression to tell him how wonderful that was. I clap my hands. Clapping hands is a normal impulse for us. It expresses joy. Horses fling their tails with dramatic flair when they're very pleased with themselves, and I want Joe to understand this similar connection to joy. He's a little startled by the noise of the clapping at first, but he soon senses my happiness and gives a contented tail swing, blowing his nose in response. I tell his owners that the next time he trots, they too are to clap and tell him how wonderful he is. Once again, I ask Joe to move off, and this time he has soft eyes, listening ears, and a lightness in his step. As soon as I nod my head to indicate a speed change and point at the hip drive button, he wastes no time in picking up a light, airy trot. I jog along in place next to him at the girth button, not behind him, in time with his feet for about 5 steps. Then I drop it to stop it, and he practically slides to a stop too. We all clap and shout out words of praise and admiration for this wonderful, soft, and lovely trot. Joe blows his nose again, wags his tail, shakes his head, and grunts. All this says he is proud of himself, and he enjoys the attention and praise.
Thank you. What a story. I appreciate Sharon's writing so much because she visually takes us on this journey with her. So, there's so many really beautiful moments, I believe, in this story. And one of the things that I think as we're asking for more energy, on page 181, when it says Joe then lays his ears back in defensive annoyance, is nods his head, swishes his tail, and moves off too fast. So we pull all those signals together, and therefore it's like he's 2x in the request. And so that's why throughout this, it's like the littlest thing then is the yes well done, clap your hands, so that you're layering um the well done, because again, the goal is zero. Okay. And Danuta, again, for y'all, if you're new or what have you, you can raise your virtual hand and we can chat, or you can just put some words up in the chat. So just a moment as I finish through some of my highlighted moments. So one of the things I underlined is horses are the most confused by our lack of clarity in regards to stages of pressure, which then one of the page 181 again, up toward the second column toward the top. The only way I can do this is to work through the levels carefully, faithfully returning to zero each time. It is not the pressure that scares the horse, it's the lack of returning to normal that upsets them. And so with that being said, it's like asking for the energy up and then going into R0 instead of staying up in the energy. So then as the story was going on, we want to, if we're starting to get frustrated and it's not fun, swish your tail, walk away, leave it for the day. Because we do want our horses, when we're engaging into a trot or a canter, is to have it with a medium to lower head and not have that defensive, this is too much for me, because we always want to be able to come back to zero, even in a trot and a canter ask. And then in level 4 on 181, level 4 insists in no uncertain terms. I am standing on your hay pile. You are slow as molasses, and now I will take a chunk out of your hide. And so this is like one of these things where there are horses who will move immediately. There was like basically talking about laser beam eye, where the mare's coming, I'm going to take over your hay pile, and horses will move off. And then there's other horses, their personality is, don't tell me what to do. I need, that kind of horse needs a level 4 intensity with a little bit extra. They were told by eyes and ears, and then there's contact, horse on horse communication. So then it says, as we learned in step 7, when I discussed levels of intensity, when the dust settles, everyone returns to zero as nothing ever happened. So when there is this high level of intensity conversation, they're not holding on to a grudge. They're like, okay, you moved off, cool, swish tail, we're all done with that. And so it is difficult for people to phase their intensity in a clear, precise way and then drop it all the way back to zero at the drop of a hat. It takes a lot of practice. It's true. It does take a lot of practice. So do the yoga ball, okay? Do that, and that will help you, because the first one, throw it away. You'll probably grit your teeth and hold on to the stick or whatever you're using. But it is just energy up without emotion is really the goal. And so then round penning, if you're on the video club, we probably won't show it today, but we are going to show the protector director walk. I walked around a round pen that had 2 mares in it. We had worked with them not in a round pen. And we basically, a round pen is a play pen from a horse speak perspective. We're not asking horses to move. It's just a nice enclosed space that we can walk around the entire thing as their protector. So I walked, let's see, clockwise, and then I went in to the round pen and walked counterclockwise. I did a little bit of, hey, how you doing? A little bit of body work for a hot minute with one of the mares. And what ended up happening is they laid down and slept for literally 40 minutes. So it was absolutely incredible. The audience was in such a beautiful space. They're all really well invested in these horses, as it's a therapeutic riding center. And it was unbelievable. I have some photos. Let's see, today I didn't send that photo out, but with the reminder, but I will put one of the photos in where Sharon's sitting there on a yoga ball and these mares are laying down. So, it's, again, there is this join up thing, which is a beautiful thing in the early 2000s. And, there are certain horses that may need some movement, but it seems like it's more of for rehabilitation, uncatchable horses, because horses need to change their mind, change the direction 3 times. Horses don't move in circles with each other. It's basically a half circle. So, there's some different perspective that we have from a horse speak perspective about round penning. And again, horses don't run each other. So it's just, if you're doing that, it's interesting. Just have a how interesting attitude. What does your horse think about that? Are they counterbent to the outside? Because if they are, that means because we're sending them out onto the outside. And from our perspective, that is the protector. The weak ones are in the middle. The horse is out there as the protector. So they're having to protect you. Okay. So if you have a horse who's insecure, they're like, why are you asking me to protect you? This is not my role in the herd. So it's just interesting. I'm not saying good, bad, or ugly, but just how interesting attitude. So I'm going to check in with our chat real quick, and then we'll talk to Danuta. In Sharon's writing of the Joe story, I appreciate the roller coaster up and down of recognizing stress markers and immediate response of 0. Sharon didn't become defensive because of Joe's reaction, but mirrored for him that 0 always follows stress. Yes, always come back down. Notice that, Sharon sat on the ground while on the outside of the round pen. Thank you for bringing that in. I appreciate that. When we are inside without the boundary of the fence and start stating to the horse that we are taking the responsibility of a protector director, we wouldn't sit down. Correct. And with that being said, if we had a mounting block in the middle, that is fine, because safety, relaxation, things of that nature, pausing is in the middle, but we don't want to sit on the ground, in the buffer zone or on the ground next to a horse for safety. Just say, you can do what you want, but as a public figure, we're always promoting safety. So yeah, if there's a mounting block, that would be cool to sit on in the round pen, but in the middle, not on the edge within 3 feet of the round pen, because that's where the protector director, the buffer zone, that you're not a protector, you're off duty, and horses don't like that. So yeah, go on the outside and sit down. So Danuta, what do you have to say today?
Okay, I just want to share something that was really magic today.
Okay.
So I went outside and haven't had a chance to do anything with Bethy for ages. And I thought, well, how about I do something for her rather than with her? So I just went out there and I held her in my hands. I held her, not not actually touching her, but I just held my hand at her nose, her bridge of nose, and her sit or her hip, that just held all of her. And we stood there for quite a while. And then I thought, well, does she want to join the other horses? Because the other horses were nowhere around. Like 2 are one place, 2 are in the other place. So I was like, asked if she wanted to come with me. So she followed me a little bit, and we found a safety poo and that. But she didn't want to go to the other horses. And then when I turned back to her, she started walking away. So I sort of took a few steps towards her, and she stopped and she lay down. She just lay down with me, not the other horses. The other horses were nowhere near. And I just held my hand like in a protector over her hip, and one hand like, it's like a sentry, like, like scanning the horizon. And we
Right.
stood there for absolutely ages. My arms were aching, but I wasn't going to move. And it was
Wow.
just beautiful. And it was just, I don't know, it was just gorgeous.
I love
Just lovely.
that.
Just wanted to share that.
And so this with Bethy, it has been a little bit of a journey with you, right? Like,
Oh, no, with Bethy, Bethy's like my teacher.
okay,
It's Dandy that's been
Danny, yes,
yeah, Dandy's the young man who
yes,
I've had issues with,
yes.
but
Well,
with him
so
it's really good as well.
she loved what you were doing.
Oh,
So you're,
she's
you're
just like,
like, sit down, take a load off. And she's like, okay, thank you for protecting me.
and she waits for me. She'll sort of like wait till the others are out of the way, and then she'll wait and says, "Oh, have you got time to come and play with me?" And she does that virtually every day. And especially if I've been busy and I haven't had a chance for a couple of days, and she'll just like be more intense and like, look at me and give me that look. And
Yeah.
she's gorgeous. She's absolutely gorgeous. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm so
That's
proud of
amazing.
her. I know.
I love that for you. Good job.
It just made me really happy.
I bet. Absolutely. I absolutely love that. It's so interesting that you bring that in because last night I was out late with the horses. I don't know, it was like 11:30 and Rocky was loose and Dakota was roaming around and Dakota's loose, blind. And so I'm just kind of doing my thing, feeding and doing hay and just having a nice evening, enjoying the very wet, warm weather we're having. It's very muggy. And I just turn and she's laying down just out in the
Oh,
grass, which was just one of those things. I'm like, oh, Dakota, because she doesn't lay down very often. And she
mhm.
does because of the blindness. And so she actually laid about 4 or 5 feet away from the wood pile, which I thought was interesting. Like she felt like she was just like kind of tucked in. And I just felt it was so special for her to just be able to, yeah, similarly feel protected by my presence, just doing my thing. And then Marcus, our donkey, was kind of right in front of her, so she just took a quick nap and then she went back into her shelter. So it's so great when they, feel safe when we're around and lay down
I
next to us.
know.
It's such a
I
blessing.
know. And to feel safe with me rather than wanting to be with the other horses. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, that's awesome because you're switching into a resource for her. Like one of our values, well, the values are connection, comfort, clarity. There's resources, which can be food, but also are people. Sometimes horses resource off another horse, and it's great when they can be like, I don't care about the green grass or the hay. You're my resource of, safety and protection, comfort, connection. So that's awesome. So you basically fulfilled all of her values and she resourced off of you.
I know. It's so lovely.
Good for
So
you.
lovely.
Well done.
Thank
I
you.
love that. You're welcome, darling. Well, you have a good night, and we will catch up with you tomorrow morning.
Absolutely.
All right, darling. Thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What I've begun to notice, and everyone's like, yay, Danuta. Uh, let's see. So Violet says, what I've begun to notice with Vivian is that when she doesn't accept a halter right away, which used to be the standard practice, if I spend more time standing next to her, touching, holding a button here and there, depending on her response, after a few minutes, she'll dip her nose right into the halter. Cool. That's great because she is then saying, like, I'm not ready. It's not no, it's I'm not ready yet. So then spending some time with her, doing the buttons, basically letting go of the haltering, she's like, okay, now I'm ready. We can do this. So it's like no, the answer is not no. It's like not now or not here.
Right.
So yeah. And thank you for sharing this, Danuta. I should offer this with my old horse. We'll make it a priority. Yeah. Yeah. Working the buttons, being mindful of safety and protection is really, really a beautiful thing. PJ, did you want to add something? Nope. Okay.
Well,
um,
inadvertently, I hit unmute instead of chatting, but I'd be happy to
okay.
say
Well,
just what to piggyback on what you were saying, Laura, about no, not necessarily meaning no, but meaning not here, not now, or not in this way, which is the magic of three, of asking the horse three times to figure out also in learning how they converse about their needs and their values. Which one was it? Is it not here? Do they need a different geographic location for haltering? Is it not now? Are they finishing their bite of hay first, or they had something to say to their neighbor horse before they leave the paddock? Or is it not in this way? Has enough safety been met so that the transaction is not about the haltering. It's generally about safety. And if enough safety is met, the haltering is a non-issue.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that in because it just makes me think of this haltering thing. It makes me think of I went out to New Mexico a couple years ago and did a little clinic, and I was like, let's do some lead rope skills. And so the horses kind of had, a free run of this property, and so they let the mare in that we were going to work with, and they're like, I'm like, oh, she didn't have her halter on. So it's like, oh, cool, let's get her halter on. And they're like, well, she doesn't like to be haltered. And I was like, oh, okay, this is fascinating. We'll get through this. So I had the halter because when I went to present it, she's like, peace out. I'm not ready. So I threw the halter on the ground, probably like 10 feet away from where we were standing. And then I said to one of the participants, I was like, hey, can you do some mirroring with her? Just stand at her shoulder with your palm, stand at her shoulder with your palm toward the shoulder and breathe and just move when she's moving. And we'll just have a nice sharing space with her. And it was not even 3 minutes. She walked over to the halter and touched it, and I put it right on her. It was so cool. She was just like, I need a little space, just like Violet said. And Mommy Horse, who was she's our Morgan mare, she was like actually a futurity winning little filly back in the day. And she unfortunately had a bit of a nervous breakdown where she became uncatchable, and they had to literally load her into the trailer with round pen panels. So she was highly dysregulated. She needed, you couldn't touch her, couldn't catch her. Lead ropes touching her skin, she would run away. She was actually quite dangerous. And now she is unbelievable. It's amazing. And there's still moments when it's say, hey, mommy, it's time to catch you. There's two things. One thing is if you walk up to her and not go on the arc of greeting her at the front door at her muzzle, and you approach like walking, you reach her bubble of personal space toward her mid-neck button, she will be like, I'm sorry, you're driving me away with your belly button toward my mid-neck button. And so there's, entering through the front door, or she's like, I need to not be caught way over here. I'm going to go toward the gate, and this geographic location is a better place for me to get my halter on. So it's like, how can we be like, how interesting if we are having a challenge with catching a horse? Like, what can we do? Can we talk to buttons? Can we do mirroring? Why is this happening? Is it an old thing? So again, to circle back around the way I started today is just like how we have these questions of why. Is it me or is it the horse? And I always look at myself first because I'm not perfect. And I'm like, what did I do? Did I like blow through your bubble and not pause and do these things? Or did I lose my zero or whatever? The list of things that I could do by accident. I'm going to look at me first. Then, hey, horse, do you not understand? Is this the wrong place for you? Et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to check in with the chats. Let's see. I love that Horse Speak teaches us to notice and honor the small stuff. Yes, absolutely. I feel like Vivian just wants to know I'm really paying attention to her before putting the halter on. That makes absolute sense because she's like, who are you without the halter on? Well, how are you with the halter? Are you going to have your active awareness all the time? Like when we put a horse on a lead rope, it's now our responsibility to take care of them. And that's one of the things that I think that we are doing here with Horse Speak is that we can show up and protect these giant animals. We can do this. Even like we can help a herd settle. Because if we show up and walk the buffer zone and pause and breathe, be like, this is safe, this is safe, this is safe, and we act believable, like we actually can do this, like their mama did. Check out your horse's first teacher webinar. We talk about this stuff all the time. Mama's not going to send baby out to a new paddock to go check it out. That's just not going to happen. And that's the thing that we're doing here with Horse Speak, is we're studying horses from an ethological perspective, which means horses in their environment. Yes, and we mostly look at horses that are in domestic experiences, but we also, Sharon and I, have the pleasure and honor to be able to go and visit wild horses, whether it's Mustangs or it is the Tarpon out in Germany or the Conics over in Holland. And we were actually in the Black Forest and met the Welsh ponies over there. And then we were in the New Forest and met those ponies, so it's just amazing what we can observe that they're doing in the true wildness. But no matter what, horses have a wild nature. We can't breed out their instincts. Period. The end. That's not going to happen. Let's see. When I go to halter Gima to come in from grass, she is very specific about where we do it. First, it was in one corner, then it changed to be before the corner. Now it is okay anywhere, and I can ask her to come to me, and she will. She likes me to come up from behind. That sometimes, yeah, with a mare, they sometimes like that approach. Tina, one of my hinnies, she likes that. She likes more of a back hip. You have my back to front, then I'm able to be like, and we'll do sit, hip, little jump up with her girth, follow me, and then I can catch her. I often hand walk my horse to the beach. That's awesome. To wash his feet and have a good time. Last time I thought it would be nice to ride him on the beach, so I tried to mount from a bench. My horse would turn to me every time. And now I'm figuring out if he did not want to be mounted, turn away, or if it was an ask because he faced me, I did not mount him. Yeah, so if he's turning away, then he's like, I can't do this. So if you've had so much success with walking him, and then what if you could say the bench, what I would do is maybe there's an object that you could put on the side of him at the girth. So then you kind of made like, here's the bench, one side is safety, here's the other side, here's some safety too. Because the vision I have is like, it's a wide open beach. And then his whole flank is exposed to the wide open beach. That area might be way too overwhelming for him. It doesn't feel safe for you to get on. So you could try that, or even maybe walking around him if you're able to do that, or even draw a line in the sand. That could be enough. We've seen some videos with horses and lines in the sand. It's a threshold. No boogeymen are going to get you on the other side of this line. So that could be something you could try, and let me know if that works out for you, because it's about protection, really. And he's like, I can't, it doesn't feel safe for you to get on, Mom. So that's why he's moving away. You're very welcome. All right, so we're going to shut it down for the day. Thank you so much for sharing space with me today. And we want to give you, as we've seen in the chats today, the gift that Sharon has received from the horses, for horses, by horses, which is the exact and specific nuances of how our body can communicate clearly with horses. And all we need to do is take the time, learn how, and have this how interesting attitude. Check out our website to learn more, horsespeakacademy.com. And may you enjoy the journey. That's the keynote. Have fun learning horse speak. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. Take care, be well, and I love you very much.